Hello everybody, Raven Knight here, and welcome back to another episode of For Honor Executions Graded, the series where we take a look at each hero and their unique executions, give all of them a grade, and then find out just how good their executions are overall. So far we've looked at all the vanguards and all the assassins, and we're getting close to wrapping up looking at all the heavies. And by popular request, today we're going to take a look at Jormungandr. Jormungandr, from my count, only has 8 executions, so this shouldn't take very long to do. So I really can't wait to go into it and take a look at all this. If I recall correctly, some of Jorm's might not do so well, but again, we'll save that for the grading itself. Now, for those of you who are new to all this and don't know what's going on, take a look in the upper right-hand corner of the screen or down in the description below, and you'll be led to a video called That's an Execution, which is where I go over my rubric and explain everything that goes into making these videos possible and how basically I grade each execution. For those of you who are familiar with the series but need a quick refresher, here's what I do. I'm going to take a look at each individual unique execution of Jormungandr here, and I'm going to grade them all based on 4 criteria. Number 1, lethality. How deadly is it? Number 2, realism. How realistic is it? Is this something that could actually happen in real life? Number 3, efficiency. Is it something that should be done on the battlefield? Is it, a useful tool? Does it mean that it's going to be done quick? Is it going to be handled correctly? And then finally, cool factor. Just how cool is it? How awesome is it? Does it fit Jormungandr's personality? After we get all 8 executions done, I will average them all out to get a complete grade, and then we'll know what Jormungandr's overall grade is. All right? Awesome. Well, without further ado, and all of that was ado, let's get started. Starting off with Brutal Upswing. Brutal Upswing. Okay, well, for lethality, I'm going to give that a 4. Each of the ways that the hammer was hitting the head, we had an initial strike into the neck and head area, and then another into the chin, knocking them backwards. If this doesn't crack the skull with the initial strike to the top of the head, you can bet that the neck is probably going to be broken from that strike. This person is most likely dead, especially since they lifted him off the ground with that strike. So this person is dead. That's a 4 for 4. For realism, I'll give it a 4 as well. I was a little skeptical at first because I was thinking, could you really knock someone off their feet doing that? But at the same time, they did knock out their center of balance by striking them in the stomach first, so okay, I might be able to buy that somewhat. They might not be able to be launched that high, but I could see them being taken off the ground, so I'll give them that. For efficiency, I gave it a 4 as well. This is very fast, probably one of Jorm's faster executions, done very well. And once the execution is completed, they take only a minute to pick their hammer back up and they're back ready for the fight. So that's a 4 for efficiency. For cool factor, though, I gave it a 3. I think my biggest problem with this one is maybe it's just because of the speed of it, but it doesn't really wow me very much. And I mean, honestly, it's part of the problem I'm going to have with Jorm is the hammer as a weapon. The Hamarr that she's using here is not what an actual warhammer would look like. This is more of a maul weapon, but a maul would be a bit bigger than this. So maybe that's the problem for me. Like, I have trouble seeing her wielding the sledgehammer as an effective weapon of war. But, that's just me. It's not that Jorm doesn't have any really cool executions, but this one just doesn't do it for me the same way the others do. I still give it a 3 for cool factor, though. So that gives this execution a 15 out of 16, which is a 94%. Starting off strong. Glad for that. Next up is Skalki Crush. Oof. Oh, but look at that. Look at that. She didn't destroy the head. The head is still there. Excellent. I appreciate that. All right. So for lethality, from that height and that slam, bringing the hammer straight down on the back of the head like that, they're dead. This is a 4 for 4 for lethality. No question. This person is done for. The skull would be pulverized, and even if you missed the skull and got the spine, you're basically crushing the neck. This is going to kill. This is a definite kill blow. All right, for realism, though, I gave it a 3 for one reason. The jump. If you look at how high she jumps, just look at this. It is that is almost, I would say, maybe 4 or 5 feet off the ground. Not that that's impossible to do for some people, but I mean, that's a little much to ask, so I'm going to give that a 3 for realism. For efficiency, I also have to give it a 3. While it's not the slowest execution I've ever seen, this wind-up just takes a minute. Plus, we also have, before even the wind-up happens, we have the moment where strike to the gut, punch to the face, and then we have the wind up and slam down. So that took a little too long. I gave it a 3 for efficiency in that regard. But for cool factor, I gave it a 4. This is what I'm talking about. This is kind of like that godly power, this unstoppable zealot just flying in with a hammer. And I love the roar that she kind of makes. It's really cool. I really like that about it. It sounds awesome. It feels awesome. This is what I like to see from Jormungandr. And that is a 14 out of 16, which is an 88%. I really like this execution. I love to use it. Next up is Skull Crusher. Okay, so we have a Vanishing Act. Well, the head has been taken off, so that's an automatic 4 for 4 for lethality. When the head is gone, you're gone, you know? But for realism, I'm going to give it a 2. All right, hear me out here. Everything... this is hard to talk about. All right. As you know, I don't like decapitations when they're done too easily. Not that decapitations themselves are bad, but in this case... a hammer would not take off the head like this, and I would have given it a 1, except for one minor detail. Do I think that the hammer could have killed hitting the head like this? Absolutely. You are taking a dense mass of metal and slamming it into a person's face. This would probably kill. This would probably destroy. Especially, notice the follow through. She doesn't just hit and then stop. She does a full follow through so that the hammer actually wraps around her. Look at this. So I still think it would kill, so I gave it a 2 because I do think this would kill, you just didn't need to get rid of the head. So do I realistically think an attack like this could kill someone? Yes. Do I think that it would take off the head? No. So I gave it a 2 for realism. For efficiency, I gave it a 1. This is very inefficient for a couple reasons. The first one being, she slams the hammer into his stomach and then lets it go. And then he just kind of clutches it. That, now that I think about it, that probably should have lost some points for realism right there. Why on earth would he still hold the hammer? Why would he hold it for? That doesn't make a lick of sense. But in that case, why would she let go of the hammer? That doesn't make any sense either. So all of this is inefficient. She let go of her weapon and then trusted him to hold on to it for her so that she could follow up with a strike. I'm sorry, that doesn't work. That's a 1 for efficiency. And then for cool factor, I gave it a 2. The time it takes for her to do this, all of it just doesn't work for me. Especially since the head made a vanishing act. I might have been a little bit more okay if we saw the head fly off or something, but we don't. The head just disappears. The head just vanishes from sight. And you look at it and alakazam! Head gone. Ooh, I don't like that. So that gives this one a 9 out of 16, which was a 56%. Just, not a good one. Next up is the High Striker. Oh no, I remember this one. Oh, okay, well, all right. Well, for lethality, the head is gone. The head has been destroyed and knocked off the neck, so 4 for 4 for lethality. For realism, that's a 0. I can't even give it a 1. This is some Twilight of the Gods kind of shit right here. Jormungandr slammed the head of her hammer down at his feet, and it summoned a bolt of lightning that shot up his body and blew his head off. I'm sorry, no, that don't happen. So, I mean, I'm not telling y'all anything you don't already know, but no, for realism, that's a 0. For efficiency, I gave it a 1, because look at this. She basically praises herself, like, everyone look at me, and then does the attack. Plus, considering that the attack isn't even realistic in the first place, she wouldn't be doing any damage to the enemy. She's just slamming the hammer down at his feet. You would need the power of lightning to destroy the body at that point, and then she stops to say, yay, I did it. So I gave it a 1 for efficiency, but for cool factor, I gave it a 4. Despite how unrealistic it is, despite how goofy it is, I love it. It's hilarious. I think it's really fun. I do like this one, and I think it fits for this religious zealot to try to call upon the power of gods to get the end result. So I did laugh at it. But that gives this one a 9 out of 16, which is another 56%. Sorry, just... Oh, man, this one's funny but dumb at the same time. Next up is Bait and Nail. Ugh. Oof. Well, I had to look away for a second. Okay, Bait and Nail. For lethality, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 4. This is definitely lethal. The handle of the Hamarr is going through the throat and out the back. This person's esophagus and windpipe are destroyed And once she yanked out of the neck, it was destroying a lot of other flesh and matter. That this person's done. This person is absolutely dead. So, gonna give it that. For realism, I gotta give it a 1. All right, first of all, you threw the hammer down, and then this punch. You better pray to whatever pagan gods you believe in, Jormungandr, that you're actually going to make the warden not only land directly on the handle in the precise way you need him to, but that it will also go through the throat without issue. Because how do you know that when he hit the throat, his body doesn't just roll off of it, or that the hammer doesn't bend or roll from the strike? Like, how do you know that won't happen? The stars need to align for this execution to work. And then even then, once you get it through his throat, you yanked it out by pulling it through his throat. Look at this. She basically pulls it out by yanking it out through his throat. It wouldn't go through that easily. You could not rip it through the throat that easily. It's not a bladed weapon. It's the handle of a hammer. So, yeah, a lot of this doesn't work. So that's a 1 for realism. For efficiency, it's also a 1 because you, again, took the hammer out of your hand to do this attack. And if you missed, if you punch him in the face and you missed and he did not land on the handle, he might get up, he might roll over, someone might save him, because until his neck goes through the hammer, he ain't dead. And if you mess this up, you let go of your weapon. This is not efficient. I would not have done this. For cool factor, though, I will give it a 3 because of just how brutal it is. It is so savage, and I do feel like that kind of fits with what Jormungandr is all about. I don't think it's efficient, and I don't think it's realistic, but I do think it's pretty cool. Brutal, hard to look at, terrifying even, but yeah, it's still pretty cool. So that gives this one another 9 out of 16, which is a 56%. That's 3 56s in a row, Jorm. Please don't do anything worse. Next is Hamarr and Anvil. Eesh. Okay, Hamarr and Anvil. For lethality, I had to really think about this one. Because on the one hand, you can take out a person's eye and they still live through it. So at first I thought she's probably punching it through the eye, which might not kill. But no, at the same time, you could make the argument that she's not putting it through the eye, she's putting it through the center of the forehead, which would puncture into the brain, which could kill. So I decided to be nice and assume that she was going through the forehead, and that would be a 4 out of 4. You're basically damaging the brain. This person is going to die, most likely. Now, if I give it that, though, I have to give it a 3 for realism, because pushing it through the skull that cleanly with just an overhead fist down like that, like she's just bringing her fist down on the head to punch it through, I don't see it working that easily. It would have to go through the eye socket into the brain, and that's a lot to expect, especially when you consider that he's lifted his head up a little bit, so you have to make sure that you're getting it precisely down, but it's still possible, just not likely, so I gave it a 3 for realism. For efficiency, I gave it a 2. All right, first of all, she walks over, slams the hammer down on his foot, and then lets go of the weapon. Again, I don't like that you're letting go of your weapon. I think that's very sloppy. But I will say this, at least this time you have a better, more assured way of getting the kill done. You're pushing his head into the handle, so that's a little bit more efficient. Not much. I still think it's dumb you're letting go of your weapon. That's very dumb. But I gave you a 2 instead of a 1 because at least you're doing something where you're close to your weapon and you're making better sure that you're actually putting this person down. So I'll give you that. But for cool factor, I gave it a 2. I don't like this one. I'm not a big fan of it. When I think about Jormungandr, I think about how savage and brutal she would be with this hammer, just slamming this thing over and over through enemies as if she were Sigmar herself, okay? But in this, she's using the handle to do all the dirty work, and I'd kind of like to see you use the weight to do the dirty work. Like, why not slam it on his foot, and as he bends down to rub his aching foot, you then bring the hammer back down on his head instead. That would have been a smarter idea. But anyway, that gives this one an 11 out of 16, which is a 69%. I am contractually obligated to say giggity. Next is swing for it. Okay. For swing for it, for the first time, I'm going to have to give this one a 3 for lethality, and I'll explain why. Could striking the face kill? Yes, it could. My problem here is the way she strikes the face. She does not hit with the striking point of the hammer, she hits with the side of the hammer, which is not a very good idea. You want to hit with the striking point of the hammer to make maximum damage. But that's not the only problem. The other problem is she doesn't follow through. Look at where her hammer stops. She hits, but then stops the swing. She should have followed through. If she'd followed through, I would have buyed this a lot more. But since she stops it, that means that all the force going into the face abruptly stops as well. So I'm afraid I don't buy that. So, I mean, it could kill. This could kill. I'm not sure it will. There's a chance you could get out of this one. With a broken nose? Absolutely. Maybe with a fractured cheekbone? Probably. Maybe even with a ruptured eye? Possibly. But would this definitely kill? I can't say for certain that it would. Plus, this is another El Kabong kill. Kabong! Yeah, I mean, it's funny, but can't say for certain it would kill. Now, for realism, I'm going to give this a 3 because look at what his body does when she hits. It just flies off screen. In fact, let's look at it from his perspective so that we can see how far he goes. That's some distance. Now, here's the funny thing. Remember when I was talking about, the follow through? Like if she'd follow through, think about a golf swing or a baseball bat swing. What does the coach for golf or baseball or tennis always tell you? Follow through. Follow through, because when you follow through, you're going to send that thing further. So if she had followed through with her swing, I might have bought this distance. But she didn't. She just bonk and then stops the momentum. She doesn't follow through, and I don't think that's good. I think she should have followed through with her swing. She did it earlier and took off the head. Why did she stop it here? So, no, I'm afraid that's my only problem with this realistically. For efficiency, it's a 4. She held on to her weapon. She brought him to his knees, which I think is a good thing. You usually want to do that to ensure that they're not getting away. And finished off the attack pretty seamlessly. So, yeah, that's a 4 for efficiency. And then for cool factor, I gave it a 3, partially because of the El Kabong. And partially because, I don't know, that even though I think it could have been done better and she could have followed through, this is almost there, this is almost a really stellar execution. I would have liked it if she followed through with the strike and if she used the striking point of the hammer. And then I would have been fine with this one. So I gave it a 3. Which gives this execution a 13 out of 16, which is an 81%. And then finally we have Hammerhead. Oh, brother. Okay. Alright. So for lethality, the head's gone. 4 out of 4. If your head's gone, you're dead. For realism, 0. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is a 0. You brought the hammer down with the side of the hammer and somehow pulverized. I don't mean just took off the head. You destroyed the head. It is gone somehow. How it's gone, I don't know, but it's gone. And then you shoved the hammer's shaft down through the cross section of the neck with the body still standing. Okay, a couple things. If you destroy someone's head, their body is no longer functioning. It should not still be standing. And even if it was standing, once you start putting pressure down on the top, the body's going to slump over. It's not just going to stay standing for you to do this. So everything about this execution is just unheard of. The requirement of strength is not there. The body standing still for you to do this silly little gag is not there. Sorry, this is a 0. And then for efficiency, it is again a 0. And for an even worse reason. She not only put her weapon into the enemy's body and let it go, which, like I said, why do you let go of your weapon? You don't want to do that on the battlefield. She didn't need to. The enemy was dead as soon as the head was destroyed, so she literally, for no reason, stopped to do this. That was incredibly stupid, incredibly inefficient, an amazing waste of time, On a battlefield, this is a recipe for disaster. Because what happens if your weapon gets stuck in the opponent? What happens if you have trouble getting it out? How do you deal with that? This was dumb. This was dumb. It's a 0 for efficiency. But for cool factor, I give it a 4. This is one of the funniest executions Jorm has, maybe one of the funniest in the game. It makes absolutely no sense why you do it. It's stupid, it's ridiculous, and yet it is so absolutely hilarious. Now, I personally don't want it. I'm not going to pay steel for it because a part of me just cringes every time I see it, but I do recognize it's humorous. I do recognize that a lot of people do find it funny. I, for one, though, I couldn't get into it. Not like everyone else. So that gives this one an 8 out of 16, which is a 50%. Oof. Okay, guys, we did it. We've graded all 8 of Jormungandr's executions. So, after adding all the executions up, dividing by 8, since there were 8 total, we get a score of 69%. Again, I am contractually obligated to say, giggity, giggity, giggity goo. Thank you very much. Oh. Wow. I don't know if this is the lowest score we've gotten so far in executions graded, but it may very well be. When I looked over the scores after doing them, I realized that in terms of lethality, Jormungandr did very well. Almost all of her executions were 4s in lethality, but where she was crushed was in both realism and efficiency. Only a few scores in efficiency were good, and only a couple scores in realism were good. This was one of the few executions graded where I had 3 zeros, and 2 of those zeros were on the same execution, Hammerhead. The problem is, and I'll tell you the real problem that I see. The real problem that I see is that Jormungandr's weapon, the Hamarr, it's not really a battlefield weapon. The real warhammers in history were not like this. This kind of weapon I would not ever take into a battlefield scenario, and it's very clear that in order to get funny, unique executions, the development team had to get creative and step into the realm of absurdity, like the electric execution with the high striker one, or with the silly Hammerhead execution. All of that together created a very humorous and funny execution or creation, but the problem is it's not realistic, and quite a lot it's not efficient because you're having to do extra work to make this hammer seem deadly or seem useful in an execution situation. Are her executions funny? Yeah, some of them are very funny. Are they cool? Yeah, some of them are very cool. But are they realistic? For a couple of them, no, they were not. In fact, only one of her executions got a 4 in realism, and only 2 got a 4 in efficiency. That's not good. Well, I hope you guys still enjoyed this video anyway. I'm sorry to all of you who are fans of Jorm, but hey, look on the bright side. The rework for Jorm is on its way. What do you think of these executions? Do you think that they were fair? Do you think it should have been higher? Do you think it should have been lower? Let me know down in the comment section down below, but be respectful. If you guys enjoy this video, be sure to check out the others like it. I'll link the playlist for all of my executions videos so that you can check them all out. And thank you guys for watching this video. And as always, I will see you in my next video. Take care.